It's been some time since we checked in on that beautiful altcoin market cap. Yes, that highly esteemed altcoin market cap. Priorly, we did have a targeted region somewhere around about 500 billion, half trillion in this case. And well, that's pretty much been hit as of this month. So I wanted to kind of follow up on this, especially as interesting things do start to populate and come into 2024, early, I should say, as well. And well, you know, it's definitely a boring day when we're starting to talk about altcoins as well. But we will go over a little bit of Bitcoin. The next step of one of the setups that we were looking at on Bitcoin has started to emerge, so I want to follow up on that as well. And other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little Friday morning over here as we inch closer and closer to Christmas. I'm curious, actually, do you celebrate Christmas? Well, do you celebrate at all? But do you celebrate on the 24th or the 25th? Of December, because here in Finland they actually celebrate it on the 24th, which I thought was kind of weird. All right, anyways, let's jump right into it. First things first, I want to start off with yet another one of these meta signal setups. Again, I'm an investor in this project, but they do have, or this is actually a really good setup right here to kind of go over just from my own point of view, because I could say that with a bit of patience, you know, you can very easily have you know, a much better entry if you enter in between, you know, the presumed entry that that their algo is kind of spitting out versus the stop loss as well. In fact, very often you see at least a test to the 50% region between that entry and stop loss. So, you know, with a bit of discretion, you can get even better results than what they're posting right here. This one's slowly playing out on Link. I think Link's probably a more interesting topic than the one that we looked at from yesterday, to be honest with you. Hey, that's just my personal opinion, and I've gotten a lot of feedback on that as well, both positive and negative, as to, like, you know, watching all these damn shit coins. But fair enough. You know, it seems like the crowd's actually evenly split. Anyways, yes, what else should I let you know about this? Why am I even talking about it? Because this project is going to pause their minting in about 50 of the next NFT mints. Does that even make sense? I don't know how to say NFT words. But basically, after the next 50 NFTs are minted, they're going to pause it for a little bit. They want to focus on their Q1 developments, which is namely going to be developing those beta short alerts. So if you want lifetime access to their services, you know, not have to pay that monthly fees and whatnot, then, you know, the NFT is probably a good do, or at least something worth considering. And again, you can also check out their setups, which they'll post a few freshly in their Discord, which I'll have a link to in the description below. All right, sweet. First things first, let's get on over into the total altcoin market cap. Having trouble with my English words today. So first things first, we were looking at coming into, you know, the end of this year as a targeted region somewhere around, you know, the 382 fib, basically as much as like 500 billion. And we have almost seen that number. We've seen 498 billion. Yeah. Spot 114. So Krown's wrong. He should be killed and tarred and feather, and fair enough. You know, that's perhaps true. But because it has hit this region over here, I do want to follow up on this as far as the higher term timeframes go, because this one is shaping up to be, well, probably leading into a greater breakout over time. Now, as we do see on the weekly right here, there is now officially that silver cross. You do see that it also has reversed the prior trend on the weekly with a series of higher highs and higher lows. Here is, you know, low, lower high, higher low, higher low, higher high. Boom. So ultimately, this one is starting to, you know, is giving macro signs of reversals, which does imply that this is going to continue on probably deep into 2024, if I had to guess. There will be pullbacks along the way. Obviously, we're talking about very high term timeframes here, and I suspect that that's where a lot of, like, the, you know, maybe misunderstandings can happen when it comes to my analysis. Like, you know, I'll be talking about someone on monthly, and then, you know, on that particular day, like, something else will happen, and then I'll get like these really, really mean comments sometimes. It's just like, relax, man. I might very well be wrong on this, but not yet. Like, I'll call it up when I am. But in this case right here, yeah, we're talking about very, very long term. So, well, you know, it probably does pull back from this region, which, I mean, is what we're seeing right now. Ultimately, this one's very likely set to continue over time. So first things first, the second that we do start to see, you know, weekly closures above, let's just say 500 billion, I really would be looking for this one to at least mount a rally up somewhere around the 50% retracement, which is, in my opinion, extremely likely anyways, probably coming into, you know, end of Q1 of 2024. I do think that personally this is going to take some time. I think that this area is going to probably consolidate a little bit right here. But that'd be the next big area to be aware of. And then over time, you know, very likely does work its way up to the 618 2028. I suspect probably in later 2024. Now, here's the thing. When we go to the monthly, I do also want to point out a few other things. First and foremost, we do see, again, that macro reversal in progress. Very similar, actually, in relationship to what we saw in 2019, by the way, as well, where you basically had essentially one higher low coming off of the low right here. You might even call this double bottom, although technically speaking, it is a slightly higher low in this case. And what did we see in 2018 and 2019? Well, let me get rid of this. I want to actually like dial it in a little bit more, and I got too many damn things convoluted in this chart. But we had low number one right here, higher low number two right there. Yeah, is it a double bottom? Maybe. But generally speaking, not generally, but quite literally speaking, on a closing basis, it was a higher low, and then upwards and onwards from there. Anyway, same thing over here as well, especially if you do notice the relationship between that cyan moving average, which is a 9 exponential, and that yellow 21, which did cross right here. And that really started to propel that run up until, the highs of 2021, of course. So in this case, we do see something similar happening over here, although not quite yet, between the yellow 21 and the cyan 9. But you can imagine that coming into January, they're going to either cross to the upside or be so damn close that it's inevitable that they will cross in February. Let me actually see. Do we have the... Yeah. So if it was going to happen at the end of this month, things would have to close above like almost 6.5 billion. So probably, 650 billion, I should say. Probably not going to happen, but coming into February, I imagine very, very likely to happen. So again, we're talking about very far away here, but ultimately, I do think that this is, I don't want to say inevitable, but extremely likely. The reason why I say it's extremely likely is because, one, we do see monthly RSI hitting bullish divergence, with monthly RSI getting, reaching back towards that bullish control zone for the first time in a very long time. We see the monthly Joule having the same sort of bottoming and reversal structure that we saw actually on Bitcoin, with, again, turning cyan right here, supported by DMI, and also bouncing off that slower moving oscillator. And this is all within the context of the lowest volatility, or the second to lowest volatility that we've ever seen ever on the monthly. So this move, what does that imply? It implies that it's barely even gotten started. Now, the moving average on HPDRV representing volatility is starting to point up for the first time in a very long time, and so I do look at that as an indication that this move is very likely to trend here on a monthly basis, not on a daily basis, not on a fucking hourly, not on a 15-minute, but on a monthly basis. For quite some time. For example, the last time that we saw, monthly volatility trend or basically expand from these low levels was actually coming off of April, May of 2022, which did lead into this downside move from, 850 billion to basically the lows. The time before that we saw it was back on over here on the actual breakout with, again, that exponential moving average cross, which happened on that green vertical bar. Let me get rid of this one so it's not confusing. Alongside expanding volatility from extreme low levels. That's a very similar setup to what we have right here. So the bias is towards upside price action. The bias is towards this move barely even really starting. I mean, the last one took about a year and a half to really resolve. This one is, if assuming that things close, around here by end of this month, probably likely, that's going to bring us into at least end of 2024, probably even mid of 2025, if I had to guess. So, again, this is probably going to go on for quite some time. So what is the general message that I want to be having? If you're trading altcoins, and assuming that you have the best possible ones, which you definitely do because you read the white paper and because you know the team and because you know how to analyze the code and all this great stuff, which I know nothing about, so I don't play this shit. But assuming you know all that, then altcoins are generally going to be doing pretty damn well this next year. Again, throughout the whole year, not on a daily basis, not on a fucking hourly basis, but generally, throughout the year on a higher term time frame closing basis. So, if you have good positions, it's not the worst thing to probably hold through a lot of them. But that's not financial advice. That's just my stupid opinion, which is based off of very, very little, except for these charts over here, which who knows if they're even, who knows what they even mean. Anyways, okay. So yes, we've gone through all of that. Now let's get into some Bitcoin. I thought Bitcoin, let's start off over here with Bitcoin. So we were looking at this 12-hour setup on Bitcoin which fired off about 10 days ago. Yeah, so about a week and a half ago. Yesterday, it was still open, meaning that, it was still suggesting that Bitcoin probably moves higher in the short term, and Bitcoin did move higher in the short term, but it is now gotten that official closing signal over here. So if you were looking at that and treating that as indicative of Bitcoin likely to head up higher in the short term, then that's already been had. And that was actually a big portion of yesterday's analysis. So we didn't necessarily see any sort of a real breakout yesterday, just this particular setup close. So now that we've gone through that, we can, put this one by the wayside and wait for the next one, I suppose. But my main message today is that Bitcoin probably sideways at best here, honestly, until the end of the holiday season. If we go over here to the daily HPDR bands, let me go to my favorite chart right here. There we go. We can see that the median has actually shifted quite further down towards 42,500, a little bit below there actually, 42,400 in a few bucks. But here's the thing, with Bitcoin, seemingly getting rejected above 44,000 bucks again, I'm actually inclined to say that this can very easily test back down around there in the short term. I do think that if Bitcoin was going to take off and break out, it likely would have happened yesterday. I do think that, again, at best for these next few days, you probably see Bitcoin go sideways. Higher term timeframes are still, in my opinion, generally good, but implying that Bitcoin probably sees higher before a major correction lower. Maybe as much as mid 48s. Somewhere between like mid 47 to mid 48, if I had to guess. But for right now, it does seem like the short-term momentum is starting to subside. We are starting to see, actually, no, we're not starting to see that. That's interesting. Let's see what we can see over here then on our more traditional tools. I'm curious if there's anything that I haven't looked at just yet. Yeah, I'm not getting anything too crazy about this. A correction back down to like 43 or 42.5 is completely fine. I mean, it's just ranging right now. I don't think that Bitcoin's ready to break out just yet. It's not really until we see volatility over here, specifically volatility. Do I have the same settings on these? I should have the same settings. Okay, this is actually sampling 13. It's not until we see volatility in the HPDRV start to really actually pop up with that moving average that I'd even entertain the possibility or probability of a breakout, outside of this 50% range right here, which the highs are still about 45, 200, 300 versus the lows at about 40,200 basically. So, I suspect that Bitcoin probably trades a little bit more sideways, maybe into the early next week, and then perhaps we get an actual direction. Still, in my opinion, biased towards the upside resolution. But a lot of the things that we were looking at yesterday, they happened, but without the actual breakout. So in that case, there's not really much else to say, honestly. Just a bit of waiting, a bit more sideways, and I suspect that's it until we actually get the new year, honestly. Maybe a little bit before then as well, I suppose. But, again, I want to reiterate my overall stance. Bitcoin still, I would be biased towards one more move higher. But in Q1, I don't know if it's going to be like late January or right around the end of Q1, I would expect Bitcoin to have a pretty sizable correction, talking like between 25 to 40%. And it just depends how high Bitcoin gets first before we start to, entertain targets to the downside based upon that. But I'll upload another video about that particular topic. Maybe this weekend. I'm trying to think when would be a good time for that so that people actually see, because it's kind of the holidays right now, and I think that's a more important topic as we start to really prepare for such things. But yeah, I'll figure that out later. And other than that, I want to once again wish you the best of best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.